The moment my stepdaughter leaned back in her chair, smirked at me, and said I wasn't real family, something inside my chest folded like a piece of paper being crushed in someone's fist. And the worst part wasn't even her voice, which had that sharp, stinging tone only teenagers can make. It was her mother, my wife, sitting across from us at the kitchen table, nodding along like this was all normal, like her daughter had just pointed out the weather. I still hear the clink of her spoon against the mug when she nodded. It felt like a judge tapping the gavel, guilty. So tell me, was I wrong for what I did next? Because that moment, that tiny exchange, sent everything spiraling until I had to make a choice I never imagined I'd have to make. And even now, I still replay it in my head, wondering if I crossed a line or if I finally defended myself after letting too much slide for too long. You tell me if you would have done the same. I guess to explain how it reached this point, I should go back to the beginning, before I ever heard the words, "not real family," tossed at me like trash. When I first met my wife, I honestly felt like I'd stepped into light after too many years living in shadows. I had gone through a rough divorce years earlier, the kind that leaves you feeling like someone unplugged a part of you. My ex-wife and I never had kids, and somewhere in the cracks of that failed marriage, I had convinced myself that maybe fatherhood just wasn't meant for me. Then I met her, a woman who carried both softness and steel in the exact balance needed to keep her life afloat. She had a daughter, 12 at the time, named Lila. Sharp-eyed, quiet, guarded. She watched me the way a cat watches a closed door, knowing something is behind it, but refusing to trust it. I didn't take it personally. Kids her age have radar for adult mistakes, especially when those adults might enter their territory. In the beginning, things were awkward, sure. Trying to bond with a preteen who didn't ask for me, didn't want me, and didn't trust me felt like trying to climb a rope coated in oil. Every gesture slid right off. I'd take them out for ice cream, and Lila would stare at her bowl instead of talking. I'd ask her about school, and she'd give one-word answers. I bought her a birthday present once, a sketch kit because her mom told me she liked drawing, and she accepted it with a stiff, thanks, without even removing the plastic. Her mom kept assuring me this was normal. Give her time, she said. She's been through a lot, and I believed her. I told myself that one day, maybe years from now, she'd look back and realize I had been trying. Little did I know that every attempt I made was being quietly tallied in some invisible ledger, and none of them counted in the end. When we moved in together, that ledger grew heavier. I helped pay the rent. I drove her to school. I cooked dinner on nights her mom had late shifts. I never tried to replace her father, who lived in another city and popped in and out like a cameo in a long show. But I tried to be someone stable. Someone consistent. You'd think that consistency would carve out a space for me. But instead, the more I tried, the more she seemed to push back. She would roll her eyes when I reminded her about chores. She would mutter comments when I said goodnight. And every time I mentioned it to my wife, she brushed it off like dust on her sleeve. She's just moody. She doesn't mean it. She'll warm up. Warm up? At times, it felt like trying to get close to a block of ice by hugging it tighter. But I stayed because I loved her mom and because some naive part of me thought love alone could bridge any gap. Then, a couple years later, things got worse. Lila hit 15, which is an age where kids can snap their fingers and conjure drama from thin air. She got mouthier, colder, more defiant. Normal teen stuff, yes. But pointed, targeted. It always aimed straight at me. If my wife told her to do homework, she did it. If I told her to do homework, suddenly I was nagging. If her mom asked her to wash the dishes, she'd sigh, but do it. If I asked her, I'd get, "Why are you even telling me? You're not my dad." That one stung. Not because I expected to be her father, but because of how easily she weaponized the absence of that title. Like she knew exactly where to hit. I kept trying to be patient, but it was getting harder. I felt like a guest in my own house, like someone renting emotional space instead of living in it. And still, I kept telling myself things would change. I kept carrying hope around like a stone in my pocket, heavy but familiar. Then came the day everything snapped. The kitchen scene, the breaking point. We were talking about something stupid, chores again, and I gently reminded her to take out the trash because it was her assigned day. She looked up at me, smirked, and said, "Why do you even care? You're not real family." Just like that. No hesitation, no guilt. And then she laughed. This cold little sound that didn't match her face at all. I turned toward my wife, expecting her to say something, anything, but she nodded, as if what her daughter had just said wasn't cruel, but true. And maybe it was true, but hearing it dismissed like that, with her mother's approval, broke whatever rope I'd been trying to climb all these years. I felt something crack, something fragile I'd been protecting. After that moment, I walked away, went upstairs, sat on the edge of the bed, and tried to breathe. My hands were shaking, not from anger, from disappointment so deep it felt like it was rooted in my bones. I kept replaying the smirk, the laugh, the nod, and for the first time since entering that house, I asked myself if I even belonged there. Over the next few days, nothing changed. No apology, no conversation. It was like the whole thing vanished into air. Meanwhile, I began pulling back. I stopped reminding Lila about homework. I stopped cooking dinner, except for myself and my wife. I stopped driving her to school. She didn't seem to care, honestly. Maybe she even liked it. And my wife didn't ask why, which told me more than any argument could. It wasn't until my wife started noticing that I wasn't paying for groceries, extra bills, or school things anymore that she finally confronted me. She cornered me in the living room one night and asked what was going on. Her voice was tired, annoyed, like I was causing unnecessary ripples in a calm pond. I told her exactly how I felt, what had happened, how deeply it cut. She shrugged. "She's just a kid. Why are you taking her words so seriously?" That was the moment I realized I had built my life on a foundation that wasn't meant to hold me. And here's where I want you to stop and think. Imagine being told for years to be patient, to keep giving, to keep trying, only to be treated like an outsider in your own home. Imagine the person you love dismissing your pain with a shrug. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause for a second and tell me in the comments what you would have done in my shoes. Seriously, would you have stayed? Or would you have walked away like I eventually did? Because yes, I walked away, but not in some dramatic door-slamming way. It was quiet, calm, almost gentle. I woke up one morning, packed a bag with just enough clothes for a week, wrote a note, and left. Not forever. At least, that's not what I told myself at that moment. I just needed space, air, distance from being treated like an inconvenience in the life I helped support. In the note, I wrote that I loved my wife, but couldn't stay in a place where my presence was mocked, and my contributions treated like background noise. I wrote that I'd give her time to think, just like she told me to do with her daughter for years. And then I left. At first, my phone blew up. Missed calls, messages. My wife asked where I was, why I was overreacting, why I was making things worse. She didn't ask how I felt, just why I was making her life harder. After a day or two, the calls slowed down. Then came messages about bills I usually covered, school fees, groceries, household expenses. Suddenly, she was feeling the weight of everything I'd been carrying. Funny how invisible effort becomes so visible once it's gone. 3 days into my absence, she asked to meet. We met at a small cafe. She looked stressed, like someone juggling too many items and dropping them one by one. She wanted me to come back. She even apologized, but it wasn't an apology for how she treated me. It was an apology for how complicated things had become without me. I asked her one question. Did she understand why I left? She hesitated, and the silence between us felt like a verdict. I realized she still didn't get it. Not really. She wanted the stability I provided, not me, not the man behind the effort. Later that night, she sent a message saying Lila wanted to talk to me. I won't lie. A small part of me hoped this would be the turning point. But when the call came, her voice was flat, almost bored. She said, "Mom says you should stop being dramatic and come back." No responsibility, no acknowledgement, nothing, just a casual dismissal. That was the moment I knew I wasn't going back. I wasn't needed. I was only useful. And being useful isn't the same thing as being loved. I filed for separation. Not divorce yet, but enough for space to become permanent, unless something dramatically changed. My wife tried to fight it at first, but then she stopped. I think she realized I wasn't bluffing. I moved into an apartment across town, small but peaceful, quiet, mine. For the first few weeks, I felt guilty. Then slowly, guilt turned into relief, and relief turned into something close to healing. As for them, word got around through a mutual friend that life got harder once I left. Expenses piled up. My wife had to work extra shifts. Lila picked up a part-time job. Funny how the person who wasn't real family had apparently been holding the structure together. But I didn't say anything. I didn't feel triumphant, just tired. Do I regret leaving? No, but do I wish things had been different? Every day. I wish someone had tried, just once. I wish someone had looked at me and said, "I'm sorry. You matter here." But they didn't. And eventually I stopped waiting. So that's my story. Maybe messy, maybe painful, maybe a little confusing from the outside, but real. And now the question I asked in the beginning still stands. Was I wrong for walking away? Was I wrong for choosing peace over a place where I was treated like an outsider? Or was I right to finally step out of a house that never felt like home? If you are on my side, like this video, it helps more than you think. Subscribe for more stories like this, because trust me, I have plenty more to share. And drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know what you think about this whole mess. I'll see you all in the next story.